Hey y'all! Are you ready for another story? Because I'm back and I've got another story to tell you. If you recall from the last video, I said I was going to continue a series of 3 stories. The last one is about hallucinating on the job, and this one is about my convenience store job that I kept after I quit the Reaper Graphics job that I spoke of in the last video. So we're going to get started on telling this story, but before we do, I want to remind you that if you haven't hit subscribe. I'd appreciate it. And don't forget to hit the notification bell if you want to be notified of future Gab session videos that I send out 3 times a week. And we'll let you know about them. And I want to remind you to give me a thumbs up if you like the video and share it with all your friends if you're so inclined. And don't forget, if you have any ideas, thoughts, or comments, or anything you want to share with me, you can feel free to do that in the comment boxes below. Okay, with that said, on with today's story. If you recall, you remember that last video I said I was working 2 full-time jobs, and I started hallucinating on the first job, and I ended up quitting that job so that I could work 1 job. And even though that would mean less money to pay the bills, I felt it was the best thing to do under the circumstances of hallucinating on the job. Okay, I didn't want to get into trouble or get anyone else into trouble or hurt anyone, and least of all myself. So I kept the convenience store job. Now this convenience store job was kind of way out in the boonies of Plano, Texas, before it was really anything at all. And there wasn't much traffic up there. It was kind of starting to develop, but it was a singular road with nothing around it at all. And it was located out there in the middle of like a big pasture. Anyways, I worked there the graveyard shift. And I kept doing the graveyard shift until I became sort of a manager situation. Now, if you recall in the last video, I mentioned that I was inspired, or not inspired, but I was reminded of a personal experience at this convenience store from the radio show I was listening to recently. And they were talking about how this guy had won a lot of money in I guess a casino or something, and then he went back to his hotel, and then someone knocked on the door and they basically tried to rob him and shot him and all that kind of stuff at gunpoint. Okay, serious thing. Okay, that's pretty scary. Anything with a gun, I think, can be pretty serious when you're talking about a robbery situation. And then the radio host told us about his personal experience at an ATM where someone approached him and put a gun to his head to get the money out of the ATM, which is about a total of $8. So anyway, that reminded me of this experience at the convenience store, which I affectionately call the tragic market. Because at the time, this particular place, it was a Gulf gas station, and it had a convenience store component to it called the Magic Market. And I remember several stories from that job, but this particular time, at this point in time in my life, I referred to it as the tragic market, not the magic market, because of the weird stories that would happen. Because when you're a lone convenience store gas station out there on a road in the middle of nowhere with nothing else around it, you're going to get all kinds of interesting people coming through. And I'd have people coming through, we're on construction crews, and people just passing by, and shady people coming in and out. You know, that's kind of like the nature of a convenience store. It attracts all types. And so I worked there during the graveyard shift to begin with. And I remember one night a young man came into the store, and I'm standing behind the register, behind the counter, and he pulls out a gun of some sorts. I don't even know if it was actually a real gun or not. All I know is that you take that seriously when it looks like it's a gun, or when they're behaving like they're going to use it like it is a gun. Because you never know if it really is or isn't a gun. Could have been a toy gun for all I know. But he pulled it out and he pointed it at my head. And he's basically telling me he wants all the money out of the register. And I am the kind of person at that time that I find myself often in situations sometimes like that where you think you'd be kind of freaking out on the inside, and all of a sudden you're not. You're in that moment, and you're just kind of like, I wasn't calm, but at the same time I had my presence of mind. You know, your senses are a little more alert. So this young man is pointing this gun at me, demanding all this money out of the register, and I kind of get my ornery on, you know, because I can do that sometimes, and I get a little sarcastic and I say, well, do you want that in a bag? I probably shouldn't have said that, because, you know, that could have pissed him off a little bit, and he could have just gotten really rambunctious with me, and that's the nice way of saying it. But he, you know, had me put whatever was in the register in this paper bag, and I give it to him, and I don't remember exactly what happened after that, if I had to get down on the floor, or, you know, if he just ran out with the bag or what have you. Even though the place was well lit, when you're working the graveyard shift, you're basically there all alone at night. You know, anything could happen, and you're in the middle of nowhere, so there's nobody around. So this person could easily take off and get away with it, which they did. But what is so profound to me in thinking about that situation and being reminded of it and looking back at it was that I actually felt like I was pretty calm in that moment, that gun was being pointed at my head. Anything could have happened at that point in time, right? As luck would have it, nothing really happened. Nothing tragic happened. The young man, he was probably as young as I was at the time, which I was in my 20s, early 20s. He just wanted the money. That's all he wanted. So he got the money and he took off. And at that point, I had to call somebody and let them know, and they sent out police for a police report, and my managers above me came out, and, you know, and they're like, you know, and then after the fact, you get a little upset, you know, you're like, oh, what could have happened, you know? I could have been in a situation where they could have like decided, oh, I wasn't worth it, and could have blown my head off for all I know. You know, you don't play around with guns that way. And so that was my experience at the convenience store, at the tragic market, where someone came in and put a gun to my head, pointed it at me, and said, give me all the money. And I did. I gave him all the money. I didn't argue with him, but I did get ornery, like I said, and I gave him the money. He took off, and then I got upset after the fact. But during the moment, I was actually pretty calm, I think. But looking back on it, that was a really weird and strange experience, and I had several other experiences at that store. You know, with the construction workers coming in during the day, because I became a manager after that, naturally. And, you know, the things that they would say in the store, you could listen in and hear them say the most nastiest things about the ladies coming into the store and what have you. So, I mean, it was quite humorous, actually. But one of the other things I remember outside of the gun incident, which was the primary thing I wanted to share with you today, is that happened, and, you know, don't play with guns in that manner, please. Is that I remember someone, I mean, people just do crazy things. Someone had come in, and we had a restroom on the outside of the building, and someone went into that restroom and they decided to defecate and throw it all over the walls, the floors, the toilet, everything. I mean, crud or crap, it was all over the place. And you open the door and you see all that all over the place, and you're like, oh. And somebody has to clean it up. And I remember I cleaned it up. But crazy things like that happen in the middle of nowhere at convenience stores when nobody's around, or people think nobody's watching. And people do that, and I kind of wonder why they do that. Why do they go that distance? Is it really that funny? Is it really worth taking that chance to rob a store? And what if you don't get away with it? What if a police officer is right nearby? You know, what kind of situation are you putting other people in where you're threatening to shoot them? At the convenience store. It's weird. It's just all weird, okay? So I have that memory. I don't think I have any PTSD or PSTD. What is it? PTSD. I don't have that over it. I just have the memory, and how ornery I got was the most primary thing I remember about it. But I'm just feeling like, over time, I remembered the story, and I thought, I'm lucky to not have had some serious incident happen with the gun situation at this convenience store. So that's my story of the day, the gun at the convenience store, and how I got ornery about it, and some of the other crazy things that went on there. I don't know how long I stayed at that job, but eventually, obviously, I left it. But that happened after I left the reprographics job and decided I only was going to hold one job, and then after that, I don't know what I did. But that's my stories for today. And if you liked them, again, give me a thumbs up. And I'll have another one to share with you about another job that I took during the same time period that I didn't like at all. None of these jobs really fit with me in my personality. But you work jobs not because necessarily you want them or like them for your passion, but because they pay the bills, right? So I took my fair share of jobs, and I had my experiences. Well, that's all the story I have for you today about the gun and the convenience store robbery situation, and the crud on the bathroom wall, and how the crazy people come in and out of the store and say all kinds of funky things, which I can't really repeat here, but it was an interesting job. And I took the job because I needed the money, and I took it when I had the other job, and I quit the other job because of the hallucination, and I kept this one. And because of the robbery and the gun to my head, I ended up becoming manager, and I kept that job for a little while longer, and then I moved on. Next week, or the next story I have for you is about another job I had during the same time period, which I was not right for at all, and I did not last there more than 3 weeks. And I'll tell you about that in the next video, so don't forget to tune in. I look forward to seeing you at that time. Until then, have a great day. Bye for now.